Hello and welcome to my channel, You Are the One, where we talk all things law of assumption to help make your manifesting journey easier and more fun. And today we are talking on the topic of reality and how it is not fixed. And I'm going to share a personal example that happened to me a few years ago that proved to me then that reality isn't fixed and is going to highlight what we're talking about today. So stick around. My name is Hedley Derenzie. I'm a qualified life coach and author specializing in law of assumption. If you'd like to know more about me or my offerings, including coaching or my free Set Yourself Up with the Ultimate Self-Concept course, you can find those details in the box below this video or at my website, youaretheone.com.au. But we are just going to get straight into today's topic, which is reality is not fixed. So the inspiration for this video came while I was driving, which is where a lot of the inspiration for my videos come from. Either I'm just thinking and off with the fairies, or I'm listening to Neville and I'm like, oh, that'd make a great topic for a video. And I was reading a comment from one of my lovely subscribers, thank you so much, who had recently bought my book, Right Way Home, which I wrote back in 2015. And in that book was an experience that I shared that I'm going to share with you in this video about a time when I was kind of going through a really tough spot in my life. And actually, well, I'll just tell you the story. Why don't I just start there? So I was going through a really tough time in my life. I'd kind of lost a lot of confidence. I hadn't written anything for a while. I had been writing and I'd written a number of books by this stage, but I hadn't written anything in a while, hadn't really done anything. And I had found myself in a really dark spot. So one of the things that I wanted to do in order to get out of this dark spot was to set myself a challenge. So I set myself the challenge to write 2,000 words for 31 days to kind of make a commitment to myself, to see, kind of to prove that I still had the commitment and the discipline within me, because I just lost that confidence. And so this was back in 2015, and I had not yet rediscovered law of assumption, so I was just kind of finding my way through. I'd done a lot of, well, not obviously, but I had done a lot of personal development. I studied with a lot of teachers. I was always into spirituality and consciousness and all of those things, but I still didn't really understand how this game of life worked. And I was definitely struggling with it at this point in my life. And I was in my late 30s. I still wasn't sure if I was going down that track of, getting married and having kids and doing all of that. My relationship history at that point was pretty lackluster and quite disappointing, and it was looking like I wasn't heading in that direction. And when you're in your late 30s and that's something that you're going through, that can be really tough. And even though I wasn't sure even if that was something that I wanted to go down that track, I was still wondering if I would, and kind of, in a way hoping that someone would just come out of the blue and be like, hey, let's get married and have kids, and kind of make that decision for me. And of course, that's not how this game works. So I was in a bit of a difficult spot, and I was living in Bronte in Sydney at the time. I went down to the beach, and this was during my writing challenge, which actually turned out to be far more challenging than I had expected. When I look back, I was telling myself a lot of shitty stories, and I was stuck in a lot of shitty stories, and I didn't know how to tell myself out of them, which is why this writing challenge did help me, because it actually did help me write my way out of these shitty stories that I had just been telling over and over for a really long time. So I'm down at the beach and I'm looking out at what was in front of me down at the beach, and I was on my own, and all I could see was just a sea of couples on the beach. It was just like couples everywhere. I think I was sick at that time as well, so I was just not feeling great. And I'm looking out and just seeing this sea of couples, and I'm like, oh my God, like playing that comparison game where everybody has a better life than you do. I could feel myself spiraling into that story, that comparison story. So I put my head down, I had my notebook with me, and I wrote. And I probably wrote for a good 15 minutes or maybe 20 minutes, but I had my head down and I was well and truly into my journaling at that point, or into my writing. And I had written about the comparison game that we play and how it doesn't serve us and how it didn't serve me. I kind of wrote myself out of the shitty story that I had been telling and that I had been seeing in my immediate surroundings. And when I looked up after that 15 or 20 minutes, I was absolutely shocked to find that all of the couples on the beach had disappeared and they were replaced by single people. There was not one there was not one couple on that beach. They were all just single people on the beach, reading a magazine, talking on the phone, reading a book, or just sunbaking, or whatever it was. Suddenly the scene before me was completely different to when I had looked up before. I just remember that experience so clearly, because when I sat down and I was in the shitty story of comparing myself and telling myself that, you know, my life isn't as good as everybody else's and all of that crap that we go on with, and then I put my head down and I wrote myself out of that headspace, and I wrote myself into a story where the life that I was living and the state that I was living that life in was okay. It was enough. This was my life, this was my path, and that was perfect. When I looked up and I saw all of these content-looking single people on the beach, and I'm not kidding, I looked for a couple and there was not one. They were all single people. The entire scene had changed within 15 minutes of me having my head down and writing myself out of this awful story that I'd been telling myself. And it proved to me then, not that I realized that that was law of assumption at that time, but I realized that reality is not fixed. Now, I did not know consciously at that point what law of assumption was, or that I was even using law of assumption in my life in that moment to change my reality, because I was still very much believing that reality was occurring to me. But it reminded me of the magic and the reality that you see in front of you. It is not fixed. It appears fixed, and that's the illusion. But as we know, thanks to these teachings, consciousness is the one and only reality, and reality is reflecting back our state of consciousness in every moment. And you can be experiencing a reality that is unfavorable and not to your liking, and it is as a result of the story that you're telling in consciousness. And if you take your attention away from that reality, which I did when I put my head down and I was in my journal for a good 15-20 minutes, when you take your attention off reality and you change the story and you change your state of consciousness, you will see a change in your reality, because reality is the reflection of what we're doing in consciousness. And that was reflected back so fast in my reality within 15 minutes. The couples had cleared on the beach and they were scattered, like, it's not a big beach, but it's big enough. And then all of a sudden these couples were replaced by single people. It was amazing. It was unbelievable. And I remember just going like looking out into my reality going, what just happened? Like, how is this possible? And then I saw this woman, and she was on her own and she was sleeping, and she had kids playing around her, and the kids, I watched the kids like creep up on her, and then they kind of went rah to give her a fright. She didn't flinch. She was clearly exhausted, and she kind of just moved her hat away, and she was like, can you please go play somewhere else? And I looked at that and go, you know what? Her life isn't necessarily better than mine. Like, it just suddenly felt like I wasn't actually missing out on anything in that moment. I was no longer playing the comparison game. In fact, I was just saying, you know, they have their life and I have my life, and they're both of equal value, and they're both perfect in their own unique way, and not one life is better than another life because you've chosen that path and I've chosen this path, or vice versa. It's completely unique to every single person, and it is the quality of our life is dependent on the qualities of stories that we're telling ourselves, regardless of the situation that we are in. So I just wanted to share this as a reminder. Your reality is not fixed, and this story is evidence, and I'm sure you've got your own stories where this is evidence as well. But it is really good to remember that what you are seeing in front of you, it is not fixed. If you can take your attention off it, and if you can change the story that you're telling, if you first of all become aware of the story that you're telling, take your attention off reality and bring your attention to another story, a better, more favorable story where you end up getting what you want, or being the person you want to be, or feeling the way you want to feel, and focus on that and tell that story. And if it helps to journal, I really recommend giving that a go, because I have always found that writing freehand, typing can work as well, but I have found when I'm journaling with my freehand that things move faster. That could just be an assumption that works for me, and it might not be true for you, but it has really helped me during those times where my reality isn't what I want it to be, and I can journal my way through it, and I journal my way into another story and into another state of consciousness, and then wham, your reality will reflect it back. It is magical. It's miraculous. And it's mysterious. We don't know how that happens. Like, I don't understand how that happens, but that's how it works. That's how the game played. And thank God for law of assumption, which has put a language to so many of my experiences that I had in my life and didn't understand. And now law of assumption, it really does help to explain what's actually happening, which is, of course, consciousness is the one and only reality, and your reality, which is not fixed, is the reflection of whatever it is you're doing in consciousness and whatever story you're telling, whatever assumption you're holding. So if your reality is not what you want it to be in this moment, take your attention off it and start to tell a new story. Start to play out a new scenario. Start to get in touch with a different possibility, a different version of how things might be instead, or what you would like them to be instead, and write it down if that works for you, if that calls to you. If not, find something else. But I just wanted to share that story with you as a little reminder. Your reality is not fixed because consciousness isn't fixed. So, that's cool. Anyway, as always, please remember you are the amazing creators of your reality. You are the superstar of your show. You are the producer, the writer, the director, and the actor in your movie. What you assume to be true will be so. So assume the best for you. Assume the best for everyone in your movie too, and you will have an amazing life. And this is my wish, my vision, and my prayer for you. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, comment, and share. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, I would love to have you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.